Welcome back to Cheche. We're live on Citizen TV discussing which way the National Assembly will vote on the two-thirds gender principle. Our guests this morning are Winnie Lichuma, the chair of the Gender and Equality Commission, and Ken Okoth, the ODM member of Parliament for Kibra. So before we come into, the votes and which way you think it will go, David feels aggrieved. You would like to categorically state your opposition to this motion. Please go ahead.
My problem is that members of Parliament are willing to preserve even existing shortcomings in the law, or rather things we can improve on, we can panel beat to enhance representation. For example, we want to top up the numbers, but we want to do nothing about the nominated members of Parliament, which already exist within the same law. I would have liked to see them say, we're going to do away with nominated members, we're going to try and keep the numbers low, we're going to sacrifice what already exists to achieve parity. It's not always that we are loading on more costs to the public, loading on more costs when there are clear opportunities to reduce on those, to trim more effective parliament. And that's my problem, because if we go this way, and which is what I'm asserting, 450 members of parliament in the National Assembly alone, for example, if we use the current system, would not be anything, to boast about as a country. And as I was saying, more resources can be used to do other things. However, even if it's 200 shillings, I mean, counties are being allocated less than 3 billion shillings, a whole county for development, have no hospitals, but want to pay more for representation. I mean, is the representation or the quality of it in the numbers, or in the quality of the representation itself?
I think Ken is preparing himself to rebut.
But maybe then he should tell us, what are the numbers you're looking at, David? What exactly for you would be ideal?
I would have been happy to retain the initial 210 constituencies, all right? And then we have clear election, not nomination, of the other members, female-specific or gender-specific, to top up that.
But that's zoning, isn't it?
No. And then two, because the current legislation, regulations, say that nominations have to be done before, the party list you're talking about, need to be ready before nominations, before elections. The zebra thing you're talking about. If you say that we are going to then nominate people who at least showed interest in political office or ran and lost, and then say who gathered the highest votes after the election, you round those out,
one of our viewers
and then you bring them to Parliament. That is affirmative action that promotes competitive politics and takes leadership that has not made it to the next level.
One of our viewers agrees with that, says women will sit back and avoid contest, but they can tame that by saying that for you to qualify for nomination, you must have contested in the preceding election and made it to the top 3. Yes. This will ensure that all parties will encourage and give women slots to run.
Yeah.
That proposal is pending.
And the parties that succeed to bring in women like that then be even given more money to recruit and prepare more women.
And David,
if you look at this country in our political field,
and
but there's time to make laws and go back and renegotiate things. I'm sad that was lost, but I think it's an important principle. Look at all our parties today. Which party has the strongest women wing? Yeah. You can't answer that question off the top of your head because none of them has. So that I'm telling you, you need to fund parties as a matter of principle. Say you can't be a political party that takes public funds and does nothing for the mentorship of young women to come into political life.
That can even be accommodated within the political parties fund. When you say, ODM gets 100 million.
Yes.
There can be regulation that says of that 50% should go towards a particular cause. Yeah. We don't have to keep adding more funds and funds on top of what we already do. Okay,
so we're running out of time. We ventilated on this. And I think, Mr. Okoth, you began by saying that it might not be the best proposal on the table, but it is what's on the table.
Yes.
So if we address what is on the table now, what incentives are there for parties to get on board, whether it's the IEBC, the Registrar of Political Parties, or the political parties themselves?
I think I'll just talk about the political parties themselves. There has to be a cost for going against the interests of the people. In this country, we must make our politics about issues, and the issue that Kenya is facing in this season, 50 years after independence, is to implement the Constitution. We passed a Constitution. It was a huge struggle. It captures our vision and dreams. It is time for implementing. This is the purpose of anyone in government today, They're supposed to be working to implement the constitution and see that it brings together a Kenya that everyone is included and can participate and enjoy their human rights and a good standard of living. That's the basis of our constitution as a nation today. Let us hold parties accountable and individual members accountable for how they vote. And I think what we want to do is basically say, as a negative incentive, is put it out there. The record of how your MP will vote today should be published in the media by the evening. This should be top news on Citizen, KTN, Nation today in the evening. There were how many members in Parliament. If there was no quorum, list which members were present and which ones were absent. So the Kenyans can know, if you keep saying Parliament is expensive, why do you pay parliamentarians who don't go to Parliament to debate these important issues, to think like Macaulay thinks here, you know, and negotiate and come up with those panel-based outcomes that we want. Number two is make sure then we can see, you know, what happened with the equalization fund, and I'll give you an example. When the pastoralists in Kenya were the people who were most interested on the issue of the equalization fund, and it was a constitutional amendment on how money would be distributed not by county but by constituency, and that would reach more money to them on the grassroots level. When the vote was first heard, some members opposed it, and they suspected it was Jubilee members who opposed it. When the list of members who opposed it and how they voted came out, 17 members from CORD had opposed it, and all Jubilee members had voted for it. You know, that changed the vote the next time, because you can hold people autonomous. On what basis are you opposing this? You cannot say, for instance, CORD or ODM is pro-pastoralists, pro, you know, equalization fund and devolution of funds, and when it comes to time for voting, CORD MPs are voting against something that they say is of their interest and that they stand for. I think it's the same. You cannot have a party like ODM saying we are progressive and we support women, we support young people, we support inclusion, and then you find ODM MPs like Jakoyo are the ones voting against. You must publish that list and let us know. And if Jubilee is saying, and the president is going to issue a statement, and the bill is called the Duale bill, you cannot have the vote go today and Honorable Duale's bill vote be no against the bill he moved.
So we
need to publish those lists.
We have heard that the president is going to issue a statement.
I hope he will. That would be very.
Do we expect CORD leaders, Kalonzo Musyoka, Wetangula, and the to issue statement encouraging MPs to come?
ODM has already done that. We have a party position, and ODM MPs are going to
voting them today.
Yeah. I expect our
we've reached out to them, so I'm hoping likewise they should also do the same.
Addressed, but I'd like to come to you, Winnie, because in terms of getting the parties on board, the IBC, the Register of Political Parties, and all these various bodies that we have, what have you done to engage them and lobby for their support?
They have been part of the technical working group. So as we stand now, the bill that is before the House is a bill that is supported by the Register of Political Parties, by IBC, by all other constitutional commissions, by the members of Parliament who are part of this team. And I think for me, what is important is to let Kenyans know that Kenya in the region is doing so badly. We are...
I was coming to that. Kenya is the worst, isn't it?
the worst. Rwanda is now at 64. But again, people wonder how Rwanda is at 64. I want to onset say that the Kenyan system of voting, the first past the post, it's a very difficult system. It's a system that, David, if we stood together as a country, we ought to have changed it during the constitution making process. But it was so contentious that nobody would touch it. First past the post means you go sell yourself to a Kenyan, use a lot of money to be voted. PR system that is used in most
representation.
Nordic countries, the proportional representation is a bit easier. And countries like Norway, like Sweden, we even made a visit to Norway to see why they have...
Even South Africa.
South Africa, why they've made it. And they use the proportional representation, where you are voting in Jubilee as a party, and Jubilee has their list, and their list must have both men and women, and therefore you know and are guaranteed these women will come in. But numerically, it is not easy for this country. Voters that we are suggesting now in the bill have been used elsewhere globally. It's a global way of bringing the forgotten communities within the political making decision. So it's not only strange to Kenya. It might not be the best, David, but for now what is on the table today and this afternoon is what we have. David, we are happy to engage with a process beyond, I mean, the constitution will certainly at one time be amended. We are happy to take that as a plan B, But right now, I think, let's be fair to the Kenyans who think this is the way we have to go. Democracy is expensive. It's very, very expensive. Getting 50 women more in the National Assembly and 5 more in the Senate, I don't think we'll really finish the sufurias of ugalis on our tables in terms of our budget. So I don't think it's that big. I am happy to take the debate of, so what? But let's pass this bill, and as we holistically look at things that have worked for us in the Constitution and those that have not worked, we are happy to have these being debated as one of them, looking for a best formula that we can
and this is what Anna in Nairobi says: if we maintain gender equity, the number does not increase but balances. The person opposing needs to understand the principles of equity, vote for the bill, and sensitize men and women to vote for women as well. They are good leaders. You've talked about Kenya in terms of regional performance, the largest economy in the region, the most functional, the strongest democracy, some might say.
A member of the AU that provides for 50-50.
Indeed, but I'm still lagging behind, lagging at the bottom actually of the league table when it comes to gender parity. So what's the yes vote then, Ken, given your parliament has been so hugely vilified? What would a yes vote say about this National Assembly?
Yes vote.
And maybe are they sincere? Because clearly the insights we are getting is they may be telling us, Ken might be telling us this on the first, but within himself he will vote no. Are they sincere?
I think what matters today, this is politics, it's the votes that count, and however you get them. Let us make sure today every MP is present in the House. If an MP is out of town, there's still 3 or 4 hours, drive back to Nairobi, catch that flight, be there to vote. Let us publish the list. Who was there? Did they vote for this issue or not? Let us know how they stand. Right now, it's a human rights issue, it's a gender issue, and the people that we're trying to include are women who've been marginalized in our politics. Let us see. Do we say lip service to women? When it comes to voting, do we vote against it? And we can use this even when it comes down to budgeting, not only just inclusion. Do we budget for the inclusion of women? Do we budget for all children to go to school? All those important things. We can count down to the votes and say, this leader votes against our interests. We can't believe they sit in a National Assembly, but they don't hold national interests. We can hold leaders accountable, but I think there's still time between now and the afternoon. Any leader that is not around town, make sure they come back to town, and I ask all parties, including mine, let us whip and let us vote and be on the right side of implementing the Constitution.
Okay, so I'll come back to both our panelists, to both our guests for final words, but I'll come to our panelists now. The question I've been asking is, will this National Assembly vote for the 2/3 gender principle? Which is to say, will they vote for your sisters, your mothers, your daughters to get to a space where they can compete on the same level as men for political representation? Do you believe that's possible, Mutegi?
I think they have a choice. That's good. If
someone can go to the High Court for the Parliament to be dissolved if we don't pass it.
Exactly. They don't have a choice.
David?
I think that this bill should be defeated this afternoon. I hope it will be defeated. Not because I don't want gender action or parity, but so that we can go back to the table and draft a better legislation that suits this country. Because whether we like it or not, we'll have to have legislation in place to achieve that 2/3 rule before or by the next election. So this should not be seen as if it's a do or break. We have time to fix it, and we have to fix it right.
No, we don't have time.
Okay, so when you're
Deadline
making...
is August this year.
Yes, we go back.
But August this year...
Okay, so Winnie, you're making your final comments. Please respond to the panelists' views. And I think maybe pick up on the point, we didn't explore that Mutegi made, that what are the implications if this bill is defeated?
Parliament, working around the constitutional framework, had an option to extend the passing of the law. The Constitution only allowed them once. Yeah. So come to August, that luxury is not there. And any Kenyan, be it Omutata, be it whoever who feels aggrieved after August and we have no bill, will move the court, and Parliament will be rendered unconstitutional. And sometimes when you say so, they say no, we will not. But I think watch the space, because it is also within the constitutional framework. and Parliament can be dissolved. David, the time is not there between now and August. Remember, the National Assembly must debate this, pass it, and hand it over to the Senate. The Senate must also have its moment to pass the law. Come 30th August 2016, without this law in place, then let's prepare for the worst, that a Kenyan will move to court to ask that Parliament be dissolved. Do we really want to go that direction because of adding 50 women? What would be the cost of dissolving Parliament for only 50 women being included? And these 50, we will have all categories of women. Women with disabilities, women who are youth, women from marginalized, including the old women. 50, David? I call on you to withdraw your position. I support what my brother here has said, that they have no option. They have no option. Yeah. Let's vote yes. Let's get in this bill. Let's avert what we will see after the deadline. Thank you.
Can you get the final word?
I think today we have a date with history, so to speak, and I think it's a day that members of Parliament in the 11th Parliament will vindicate themselves and show they have a national interest, that they are committed to implementing the Constitution. It doesn't have to be a fight. Let us go in there and vote for it so that we have time to allow women to know how will they participate, and those who will participate, if they don't win, how will they then be validly elected. I think a healthy government and a healthy Parliament, to me, the best shape is a Parliament that's 50-50. You know, but if we can't get that, we can get a balanced Parliament that is at least constitutionally not more than 2/3 of one gender. An unhealthy Parliament is the one that looks like the one we have now, where only 16 women were elected in there, 290 seats. So it's also to the Kenyans. While we try to pass this law as a safeguard mechanism, the first thing is for Kenyans to open their minds and say, we can get quality leadership, we can get a quality balanced Parliament with women, with men, with young people, with people with disability in there, to reflect the true face of Kenya, to serve the national interests of all Kenyans. So I urge all members of ODM, my party, to vote for this bill. I remind them it's already a party position. I am waiting to hear all the other parties, TNA, URP, Wiper, Ford Kenya, take a position, whip your members, and let's publish the list tonight and see who stands with the women, who stands with implementing the Constitution.
Thank you. Our time is up, and so we thank our guests this morning, Winnie Lee Chuma, the Chair of the Gender and Equality Commission, and Ken Okoth, the ODM Member of Parliament for Kibra. Our thanks also to our panelists, Mutegin Jao and David Makali. My name is Udwa Kamimo. Thank you for watching Cheche. We've been live on Citizen TV. We'll see you next week.